Hello, everybody. How many people want to make $1 million? Oh, I had to make sure I was in the right place. Have a seat, everybody. Have a seat, everybody. I want to start out with a couple of slides here. If we can get them up there. Because my presentation is about you. We've talked about what we need and want in our lives. And what we need and want in our lives is the ability to take care of our children. Yes or yes? In addition, we might want to take care of our parents. This is a picture of my mom. We might want to have money as well so that we can have better education for our children. We may want to simply buy a bigger house, have material objects. In addition, those are the kinds of things that we may want in our lives and what we desire. Yes or yes? And so what I want to do, though, is when we boil all of these things down, what we're really talking about is that we want freedom. Yes or yes? We want the freedom to do what we want, when we want, where we want. Yes or yes? Awesome. And so what I want to teach you today are a couple of key techniques that you can start using to make money on Monday. Does that sound good? All right, good. Now, one of the things is that I make millions of dollars every year. Is that good or good? Well, it's certainly good for me, but I want to share that with you and give you some of these techniques that I can do that. The thing is that I've achieved the freedom that I want to share with you, and I'm going to come back and talk about this a little bit more later. But I live a 5-star life, and I think that you can too. How many people here want to live a 5-star life? Excellent. Now, the thing is that I believe that this is, there's a big problem that goes on in the world. You see, when you go to secondary school or high school or even university, do they teach you how to become a millionaire? No. Not at all. No, what do they teach you? They teach you things like history, math, geography. Well, here's the way I look at it. I'd rather that they taught me how to be a millionaire in school and then I could hire a historian. Why do I need to know history? Hire one. You know what I'm saying? Come on. So to me, one of the critical things is that the problem that we have, and one of the big issues in society, is that there's so many people who could be a millionaire, but they're just never taught how to do it. Would you guys like to know how to do it? Yes. So that's the critical thing. Now, is it hard or is it easy? Well, I have to say it's kind of both. If I can go to my slides for a second, I want to show you another slide. Well, that's me on vacation, wearing my Hawaiian shirt in Hawaii. But this is the slide that I wanted to show you, if I can get it up there. That's me on the right. That's me at the age of 24, and that's my son. Now, the reason I'm showing this to you is because that's a picture of me when I first retired. I was 24 years old. Thank you. Now, what in the world? The reason I'm showing you this picture is to show you that if I can do it, you can do it. And look, now I know a huge amount of information, but I was 22 years old. I didn't know anything, and I still made so much money that I could retire and support my wife and son for a number of years. Then I got persuaded to go into a deal, blah, blah, blah. But that was the first time I retired. And so when I look at this, I say, to me, I love this photo because it tells me that everybody in this room has the capabilities of retiring, of becoming financially free. And the only issue is that you need to know how to do it. Now, let's carry on. What I want to do is, I want to teach you a couple of techniques. And one of the things is that when I first made a lot of money and retired, a lot of it, quite frankly, was luck. A lot of it was, I got lucky. I was at the right place at the right time, and I made a lot of money. But one thing was, I was smart enough to realize that I didn't know much. And so I then embarked on a very detailed study of how to make a lot of money in the markets. I wrote my first book in 1979. Now, I think half the people in this room are younger than my book. Now, since then, I've written a lot of books. I've written 8 books over that period of time. But here was the key thing. I want to talk about a simple strategy that you can start to utilize right away. And this is a strategy that works in virtually all stock markets, so you can start using it right away. And it's a super simple technique. And as I say, I started studying this back in the 1970s. And so in the 1970s, we came to the conclusion in the stock market that we should buy October 1st and sell on April 30th. Now, is that simple enough? That's the whole system. Now, you sit there and say, well, that's absurd. How could you possibly make money if all you do is buy October 1st and sell April 30th? And yet, let me tell you how much money you can make. In fact, you can make huge amounts of money. So, let's take a look. If I go back to 1952, and if all I did was this super simple seasonal strategy, how much money would I have made? Well, if I bought, let's just say I was completely wrong. Let's say I did the opposite of that first, okay? What if instead of doing the correct strategy, what if I did the opposite strategy? Because if I did the opposite strategy and made money, then this wouldn't be true. But what I'm teaching you is unbelievable. In fact, you're going to sit there and say, how is that possible? I'll explain why in a minute. Well, if I did the wrong thing, and if I bought big stocks, what kind of stocks? Big stocks. These are the big monster companies, that kind of thing. Well, if I did the wrong thing since 1952, if I bought on April 30th instead of sell, and if I sold on October 1st instead of buy, I would have made 25%. Wait a minute, that's 60 years, and I made 25%. Like, after inflation, I lost a lot of money. Does everybody see that? Okay. Well, what if I did small stocks? In other words, stocks that were smaller, little companies that are more dynamic. Well, how much would I have made or lost if I did little stocks, but I did the wrong strategy? Well, I would have done much better. I would have made 240%. How much? Well, that's a lot better. That's almost 10 times as much, isn't it? That's a lot better. But now, what if I did the right strategy? What if I bought on October and sold at the end of April? Now how much money would I make? Well, if I did big stocks, I would have made 6,561%. Gentleman in the front row said, wow. Can I hear a wow? Wow. That's a lot of money. In other words, if you do what I don't tell you to do, you would have made 25%, but if you did what I just taught you, you would have made almost 6,600%. Is that good or good? Can I make it better? What if I bought small stocks? What if I bought these little teeny companies instead of big companies? How much money would I have made following the strategy that I just taught you? The number's so big I have to look at my notes. In fact, it's so big I need 2 pages. It's such a big number. You would have made, following this strategy, 71,301%. Is that amazing or what? We're talking about life-changing money here. We're not talking about a nice profit. We're talking about life-changing money. So this strategy that I just taught you, if you had used that, you would have made 71,000% during this time period. And how much time would you have spent every year doing this strategy? Maybe 1 minute a year? 2 minutes a year? Now, I know you have busy schedules. It's kind of hard to squeeze in that 1 or 2 minutes a year. But if you could just squeeze that 2 minutes a year in, that's the kind of profits that we're talking about. Now, the key here is what I've said, like, how could this possibly work? How could this possibly work? But you see, one of the things is that the big financial community, do they want you to know the truth of how the markets work? Are they looking out for you? Listen, I worked on Wall Street for 25 years, literally on Wall Street in New York City for 25 years. And I don't remember once having a conversation where they sat down and we'd sit around and all the senior executives, and we'd sit down and we'd say, how can we help our customers make more money today? I don't remember having that conversation ever. Their focus is how to get money from you, not how to help you make money. That means that you've got to do it yourself, yes or yes? Can you rely on the big financial companies to help you make money? Who has to do it? That's the key. So this strategy, why does it work? Well, there's certain deep underlying things, powerful forces that cause markets to move in particular ways. And one of those key deep underlying forces is called seasonality. What's the word? Seasonality. And what seasonality does is it says that certain things happen at the same time every year. So for example, when you raise a crop of wheat, depending on the type of wheat, wheat is harvested in the northern hemisphere in May and June. Well, if there's a huge increase in the supply of wheat, then what does the price do when there's a big increase in supply? It goes down. Good job. So guess what? Wheat usually makes its low price in May or June and then goes higher for the rest of the year. Well, it turns out that the stock market also has the same kind of seasonality that the wheat market has as well. And that's what this is all about. That if I buy October, it turns out that there's deep underlying forces in the market which cause the market to rally go higher from October 1st to the end of April. There's an old saying, sell in May and go away. And this is where that comes from. This is something they don't tell you about on Wall Street. This is something the big financial institutions don't tell you. And part of the reason they don't tell you is because they want to make investing seem really hard. Because if it's really hard, then you'll pay them big fees. But instead, if it's really easy, and when you can do this strategy and outperform Warren Buffett, repeat after me. Warren who? The point is, you're now dramatically outperforming Warren Buffett by using this strategy. Does everybody see that? Let me repeat. This strategy right here, what I just taught you, means that you will make more money than Warren Buffett. It's amazing. That's what it is. Now, do you want me to teach you another technique? All right, everybody have that one written down? All right, good. Now here's the thing. Once again, when we look at markets, we need to learn about the deep underlying forces that affect the market. So the next technique that I want to teach you is what I call hot hands. Hot hands. Somebody whistled. Now, let me give you a few statistics. And this is also a very simple technique because, as we know, if it's simple, we will do it. If it's not simple, we won't do it. So for my own trading, I want to focus on methods that are super simple because then I know myself and my traders will do them every day, yes or yes? So this technique also just as simple as the one I showed you. Now the technique, first let me give you a few statistics to prove what I'm saying actually works. The key is we want to buy stocks that are already doing well. Let me repeat. So in other words, if a stock is up a lot over the last year, it's probably going to do really well for another year. Now, everybody has taught you that you should buy low and sell high, yes or yes? But what I'm telling you is you should buy high and sell higher. Now, that's not what they teach you from the financial community. They tell you to buy low and sell high. Can I show you why that's a bad idea? All right. So, here's what they do on Wall Street. They'll tell you they will write a tremendous report. And let's say I'm that analyst. So, I write this great report and I've discovered a tremendous stock. My analysis is genius. And so I've discovered this incredible stock and we can buy it for only $50 per share, and that's a steal. You should buy all you can because that's a great stock. You've probably heard those kind of reports given by financial companies, yes or yes? All right. Well, here's the problem. What happens if the price goes to 40? Well, if it was a great buy at 50, it must be an even more amazing buy at 40, yes or yes? So they tell you buy at 40, yes or yes? And that's what they teach everybody. Well, here's the problem. What if it goes to 30? Now what do? It was a good buy at 50. It was a great buy at 40. So what do you do at 30? You mortgage your house to buy more. That's what you're supposed to do. So, okay, so now we mortgage our house because if it was a good buy here, a great buy here, it's an insanely great buy here. There's only one problem. The price goes to 20. Now what do? Well, what they tell you is you should buy dips. So what do? Good buy here, great buy here. You mortgage your house. So what do you do at 20 bucks? You sell your wife. It's obvious what you're supposed to do, right? Of course that's what you're supposed to do because you need to get more money to buy even more. So now, of course, the only one small problem, the price now goes to 10. Only now you're wiped out, you're divorced, you've been kicked out of your house. The problem is that trading is super simple, but human beings make it difficult. I'm going to ask a very simple question. If you look and you see the price of a stock going up, what is the market telling you to do? Buy or sell? You now are certified financial geniuses because you now know 2,500 people in here now know more than the financial community because they'll tell you it's overpriced. Well, yeah, but it was overpriced here and here and here and here and here. Look, if the price is going up, buy. If the price is going down, sell. That's all trading is. That's all it is. You see, if I'm back over here, and the market's going down, Wall Street tells me to buy. This is crazy talk. This is crazy talk. You see, because what's the market telling me to do? Buy or sell? Sell. Look, if I'm such a genius analyst and I want to buy and the market is going down, who wins that fight? The market or me? The market wins every single time. You see, the market is bigger, stronger, faster, and better looking than I am. So never fight the market. Even when you think you're a genius, even when you think your analysis is unbelievably brilliant, if the market tells you to sell, you sell. If the market tells you to buy, you buy. So now let me come back to hot hands. The whole strategy is very simple. If a stock was strong yesterday, you buy it today. Now let me give you a few statistics to prove this. So we had a study, and this was a very simple study. If you bought the top 20%, now what I mean by this is, if I looked last year at the companies that were the top 20% performing, in other words, they beat 80% of the stocks, and that's my whole strategy. If that was my whole strategy and I didn't do anything other than that, I would have doubled the stock market. Just using that one factor. One factor and one factor only. The momentum of the stock itself is one of the most critical factors for making money in the market. Let me give you another even more amazing statistic. This one, they did a study. It took a little bit longer period of time. So the assumption was we start with $1. Start with $1. Now, let's divide the market into the top 20%, the middle 60%, and the bottom 20%. So in other words, this last group, these are the stocks that did really bad last year. Their prices dropped the most. They were in the bottom 20% of all stocks. So these are the stocks that didn't do really well. Well, in this study, if you had invested $1 in the bottom 20%, you would have ended up with $50 at the end of the study. Well, $1 to $50 sounds really good. That sounds really good. But guess what? If I had instead invested that money into the middle 20%, or middle 60%, I would have ended up with $20,000. Never buy cheap stocks. That's what this is telling us. Buy stocks that are strong. Buy stocks that are going up, not down. But here's the killer. What if I had only every year bought the top 20%? You know how much money I would have made? Instead of $50, instead of $20,000, I would have made $2.3 million. Is that good or is that great? It's great. We're talking some serious money here. The point is, don't buy stocks that are going down, buy stocks that are going up. Look at your list of the top performing stocks over the last month, over the last year, and that group of stocks is nearly always going to outperform the market going forward. That's a critical question right there. That's critical to understand that. Look at this list of stocks. The stocks that have outperformed the stock market in the past will most likely continue to outperform the rest of the market going forward. Now, people say, well, how much money do I need if I want to trade stocks? Well, you can start with 10,000 Rand. You can start with 20,000. You don't need a lot of money. The two strategies I've just showed you right here, you could probably do with 100 Rand, with 1,000 Rand, with very small amounts of money. And so as a result, this is a critical part of changing our life. Because you see, if I don't start right now, it's amazing how much money I don't make. Let me explain. You see, let's say I start out, and I'm just going to pick a round number. Let's say I start out with 100,000 Rand. $100,000, let's say $1. So I start with $100,000, and I'm going to say that we've got two people here. We've got Mr. Happy, and we've got Mr. Sad. Okay? Now, this person invests, let's just say, we'll say $100,000, let's say $10,000. But Mr. Unhappy doesn't invest it all this year. However, based on the studies I just showed you, Mr. Happy at the end of the next year has made 100%. So Mr. Happy has $20,000 plus has invested another $10,000. So Mr. Happy has $30,000. Mr. Unhappy has 0. Now that's at the end of 1 year. The next year, I double my money, 30. So now I have 60 plus 10 that I invest in. So now I have 70,000. Mr. Unhappy has 0. Now let's say finally Mr. Unhappy sees how much money Mr. Happy's making and says, okay, I'm going to start doing this too. So he puts in $10,000. But over here, we've got $150,000. Now I'm going to ask a very simple question. Which person is going to be financially free first? Mr. A. It's not even going to be close. The point is this, is that you may say, well, I don't have a lot of money right now. It doesn't matter. You've got to create the habit of building your wealth with even just the smallest amounts of money. So that can be $100, $1,000. It doesn't matter. You've got to start right away. Because otherwise you end up, instead of having 150,000, you've got 10,000. You can see that Mr. Happy is going to be a millionaire in just a few more years. Unfortunately, Mr. Unhappy is going to take many, many more years. Now, do you want to be financially free sooner or later? Exactly. So you need to start the process now, even though it's not a small amount of money. You need to start it now so it becomes a habit. What's the word? Exactly. That's the critical thing that you need to do, is start to create the habit of making money. I've shown you 2 techniques here that you can use to start making money right now. You don't need to wait. You can start right now. Now, I want to tell you just a little bit about my background. Would that be okay? Because I would just want to kind of give you an idea that maybe I know a little teeny bit about this marketplace. So if we could go back to the screen here, that's my first retirement. Now, I started in the investment community around 1971, so I've been doing this for 40 years. And I then went literally to Wall Street around 1980. I was on Wall Street until the middle 2000s, so I was there for a long time. I worked for some big institutions, and I did a lot of things in my career. So I started to get a lot of awards. I started really focusing on refining my trading and investment techniques and started to do a lot of different things. For example, I wrote 8 books. Here's the last 2 that I wrote, one on foreign exchange trading and one on options trading. Now, the other thing is I became quite famous and I started to be on the covers of different magazines. The magazine on the right is Timer's Digest, and they would do contests to determine who was the best timer of the market, who could pick whether the market was going up or down. Now, I'm always very proud to say that I was the #1 market timer for 3 years in a row for gold and bonds. Is that good or good? It's pretty good. Do you want me to tell you what's more important for you? I came in second 3 years in a row for best stock market timer. And I lost each one of those 3 years to a shoe salesman. So, I'm this great Wall Street professional, but I'm beaten by a shoe salesman from Detroit, Michigan. Here's my point. If a shoe salesman from Detroit, Michigan can beat me, I think you can too. Do you agree with me on that? Yes. Awesome. That's the point. If he can do it, anybody can do it. Yes or yes? Yes. All right. Now, I was on TV over 1,000 times. Should I grow the mustache back or leave it shaved off? How many people say grow it back? How many people say keep it shaved? I keep hoping one of these days I'm going to get a vote to grow it back on, but so far it's never happened yet. But anyway, I was on TV over 1,000 times. I became, as I say, very famous in the Wall Street community with all these things. But more important than being famous is that I performed. The reason I became famous is because of how well I invested. For example, I had the #1 performing macro hedge fund in the world for 5 years. I beat George Soros. I beat all the guys you've ever heard of. I had a better track record than they did. Is that good or good? It gets better. I had the #1 stock picking newsletter in the world for 5 years. Good or good? It gets better. I had the #1 mutual fund in the United States. #1. So all of these things are happening. Is that good or good? No, can I tell you something? I'm the only person in history to have done those 3 things. The only person. Thank you. Thank you. That's why I was famous, was because of my achievements as an investor. But you know what I did then? I shocked everybody. I shocked everybody. And what I did was, I had become famous. Cover of magazines, #1 performing this, #1 performing that. I'm making a huge amount of money. And you know what I did? I quit. I quit. I shut down the hedge fund. I shut down the newsletter. I shut down the mutual fund, and I quit my job. Here I am, super famous, making a ton of money. I've got all these people calling me up saying, can we give you $5 million, $10 million, $50 million? And I quit. Can I tell you why I quit? You see, what happened is that I realized that even though I was rich and even though I was achieving great things, I was not free. I was working 16 hours a day. I was not free. I didn't have any control over my life at all. Instead, I was a complete slave to watching a computer screen all day long. Now, I'm rich. It's better to be rich than be poor, but it's better to be free than not free. Yes or yes? And so to me, what I then did was, as I say, I quit everything. I became free. I started to travel the world. I moved to London. I moved to Geneva. Eventually, I moved to Singapore. I started to live in 5-star hotels all the time. I started to go to resorts that I thought were wonderful. I started to have great experiences in my life. And that was a critical thing for me. That was important to me. And so I lived that life for about 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years, I did whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, however I wanted. Is that good or good? Isn't that what everybody in this room wants? That's what everybody here wants, and I finally got it. And it was trading, it was investing that got me there. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I realized something was really bothering me. I had all this freedom, but now I needed one more thing. I needed to have some meaning in my life. I needed to take that freedom, and then I needed to give some meaning into my life. And one of the things that really bothered me, it was really starting to work at my stomach. I was starting to feel like, what's going on here? Because I had been inside Wall Street for so long, I had gotten used to it. But by spending 5 or 6 years outside of Wall Street, I could now look back into it with open eyes. And what I realized was that this was a group of people, brilliant, smart, aggressive, hard-working, but largely evil. Now, if you have brilliant, hard-working, aggressive, but evil people, that means there's a lot of evil out there, yes or yes? And I started to think about this, and I started to realize that the way the financial community works is that it tells you that you're stupid. It tells you that you don't know anything about how to make money. And so therefore, since you're all stupid, you should give your money to us on Wall Street, and we'll take care of it for you. And boy, do they take care of it for you. It goes right into their pocket, yes or yes? And that's what really started to bother me. And then we also, to add insult to injury, we saw 2008 come along. And 2008, we saw most investors lose half their money. Half their money. And the Wall Street professionals are saying, well, nobody can time the market. Didn't I just prove to you that you could do it? So they're full of shit, yes or yes? Yes. And that's the thing. So why do they say nobody can time the market? Because they can't do it. And they want you to think you can't do it either. Because then they remain in control of your money. Now, who should be in control of your money? Wall Street or you? Exactly right. And so then I realized that I needed to come back into the marketplace and to start to help people get control of their money and get it out of the control of Wall Street and the big financial firms. So it was about that time that I started a program in order to help educate people. Do you mind if I tell you a little bit about that program? That'd be okay? We put together a program called Freedom Trader Intensive. And it's called Freedom Trader Intensive because it's all about freedom. It's about financial freedom. And that's the key. We call it trading because it teaches you how to trade. We call it intensive because it's only 2 days of education. That's all we have to do. So what we're doing is we're going to have that program here. We're going to do... I'm very excited as well. Let me tell you about it. It's 2 full days, 16 hours. It's taught by me personally. And I'm going to share with you the same techniques that I used to create that amazing track record. When I told you #1 performing hedge fund, #1 mutual fund, stock picking letter, I wanted to show that to you because I didn't want you to think I was like a lot of other people who teach how to invest in the markets. I've done it, and I've done it at an extremely high level. To this day, my day job, I trade every single day. Every single day I trade. Only on weekends do I teach because I'm a trader. That's what I do. I'm not a teacher who doesn't trade. I'm a trader who teaches. But the key was at a very high level. So in this course, we teach everything that you need to know to invest to become financially free. Is that good or good? Is that what you want? That's the key. Let me tell you a critical fact and explain it. And it has to do with psychology. You see, one of the things is that I don't want you to work 8 hours a day as a trader. That's a job, isn't it? I want you to work 15 minutes a day only. How many minutes? 15 minutes. Now, some people, they say, oh, come on, that's just marketing garbage. Make $1 million in 15 minutes a day. And it is a pretty powerful message, but let me explain why I want my students to only spend a few minutes a day. We'll demonstrate it right now. How many people in this room can concentrate, can focus like a laser beam for 8 hours a day? Okay, there's one delusional person over here. All right. Okay, now let's be a little more practical. How many people here can focus like a laser beam for an hour? Got a few more people. There are people that can do that. How many people here can focus for 15 minutes? Yes, exactly right. That's why I say I only want you to do it for 15 minutes a day. But during that 15 minutes a day, I want you to be focused. I don't want you to think about anything. I don't want you to worry about what your dinner's going to be. None of that. I don't want you to worry about that at all. For 15 minutes, I want you to follow the rules that I teach. The rules are super simple. I just need you to follow them the way I teach them for 15 minutes a day. And it's because I know that everybody in this room can focus for 15 minutes. An hour is tough, 8 hours is impossible. But I just need that 15 minutes. And then you can turn that 15 minutes a day into financial freedom. Good or good? Good. Excellent. Good, good. Now, the other thing, the next thing that we teach is risk management. And what that means is that how many people here are afraid to lose money? Would you raise your hands? We need to stop that fear. So what we do is we teach you how to control the risk when you invest, because whenever you invest, there's a possibility you're going to lose money. There's also the possibility you're going to make a lot of money. But we need to get over the fear, and so we teach a very rigorous, disciplined method of risk management. What's the word? And that means that we teach you how to control the risk so that the risk doesn't control you. Good or good? So that's the next thing that we're going to teach you, is how to make sure we're never in a dangerous situation with losing money. The third thing that we're going to teach you is which stocks to buy. And we're going to teach you a technique that I call best of the best. What's it called? And recall it that. Remember, I had the #1 mutual fund. What kind of stocks does it take to create the #1 mutual fund in the country? Best of the best stocks. Well, I'm going to teach you how I found those stocks to create that amazing track record. So we're going to teach you that as well. And these are stocks that are poised to make a lot of money. This is a super easy way. It takes about 2 hours for me to teach it. It takes you 5 minutes a week to figure it out. The final thing that we're going to teach is, of course, when to buy and when to sell. So we know what to buy and sell. Now we need to know when to buy and when to sell. And I'm going to teach you several techniques. One of those techniques is called channel breakout. What's it called? And channel breakout is probably the most profitable technique ever invented. And I won't tell you I invented it, because I didn't. But I've enhanced it to make it a lot more powerful. But this technique is so profitable that it's made money every single year for the last 50 years. So we've had the crash of '87, the mini crash of 1990, the dot-com boom and bust. We've had 9/11, 2008. Through all of those disasters, this technique just continually makes money. 50 years in a row. You know what? It probably made money for 60 or 100 years. I just didn't go back that far. I was too bored. If I know it makes money for the last 50 years, you think you could make money with it next year? How about this year? Excellent. Now, why is this technique so powerful? Would you agree with me that the big money is made on the big move? Would you agree with me? You can't make 100% a year unless the stocks that you buy are going up a lot. Yes or yes? The big money is made on the big move. Important concept. Channel breakout is a technique which guarantees that you will get the big move. If there's going to be a big move in a stock, channel breakout guarantees you get that money. Imagine you're at a party and somebody says, "Did you see Apple go from $250 to $750? You know what you're going to say? "Yeah, I got that stock." When they say, "Did you see gold go from $250 to $1750? "Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I got that. No problem." "Did you see when Apple went from $750 down to $450? "Yeah, I got that too. No problem." Because channel breakout guarantees you get the big move. And it's the big move that gets you the big money. This is not a course on how to make a little bit of money. How many people here say, "You know, I'd really like to go to a course where they teach me how to make a little bit of money"? We don't teach that course, okay? You have to go someplace else for that. This is a course about how to gain financial freedom through investing in the stock market. Another one that we talk about is trend analysis. And trend analysis is a super cool technique, which is kind of the underlying principle behind all money making in the market. And then we add in a technique that we call the bishop. What's the word? Now, the reason I call it the bishop is because it's almost infallible. If it was infallible, I would have called it the Pope. But it does have the occasional mistake, so it has to be called the bishop. Anyway, this technique is an innovative technique which tells us when a market is going up, it helps us get out near the high of the move. Usually within 1 or 2 days of the high of the move. So the channel breakout guarantees that we get into the big moves, and the bishop, not always, but most of the time, gets us out within a couple of days of the high of the move. Is that good or good? That's, you see, what we teach is a total system. And the combination of the channel breakout, the trend analysis, the bishop, all of these things combine into an amazing system. Now, I'm only giving you just the quickest overview. There's lots of other stuff that we talk about. Now, you're probably sitting there, some of you are saying, well, this sounds really great, financial freedom, investing, that sounds really great, but I don't know anything about trading. I've never traded before. This sounds scary. This sounds complicated to me. What do I do? About 25% of the people who take this course have never traded before, and yet they have tremendous success in the market. You see, because one of the things we do is we understand people who have never traded feel like this might be, who might be complicated. So what we have is we have a special newbie section of the course. And before the seminar that I will be teaching live here, we actually do the newbie webinars, seminars, education, videos, and so on and so forth. It's kind of like learning a new language, except that there's only 25 words and no grammar. So it's a pretty easy language to learn, all right? The concepts are very easy. You just have to learn the definition of a few things. Now, the other thing that's very important is a lot of people will teach a course and then disappear. Yes or yes? To me, what's important is what happens after the seminar. That's of critical importance. Because you're going to take the course. I'll tell you right now, everything I'm going to teach you is super simple. I'm also going to be honest with you and tell you you're going to say, whoa, that was a lot of material. And you're going to take that course and you're going to say, wow, incredibly powerful, super easy, but a lot of material. So what we do is we have a complete follow-up program to make sure that you really get the information deep inside your heart, in your bones, and in your blood. Does that make sense to everybody? We got to make sure that you understand it. You see, we now are building a relationship. And my job in this relationship is I need to make sure that you have all the tools and information to be super successful. Your job is to go press the button on the computer. Does that sound like a fair relationship? All right, I got to make it easy. So we need to make sure that you get all the information you need in order to get that going. So what we're going to do is, at the end of the course, we're going to have 3 monthly webinars. So for 3 months after that, I'm going to come on live and I'm going to answer all the questions you've got about the course and the techniques. I'm going to make it super easy for you to continue to go on. And for a year after the course, we'll answer your questions via email and so on and so forth. But recognize that we're also going to create a network of traders for you who you can connect with as well, so that you can mastermind all this. So we're going to make sure all that information is all together for you. We're going to make sure that you've got all the information you need to be a success. You see, this program's all about financial freedom. And my mission, I'm going to talk about in a minute, but this is all very critical that you get that information. Now, the question then is, what's the tuition? Well, the normal tuition is And I can tell you, I believe that that's very, very cheap. But I want to talk about a couple of other things. And I want to give you a better offer. You see, trading has transformed my life. I showed you the picture of myself at the age of 22, and I was retired. The beach that I showed you was the beach in front of my house. I lived on that beach. I did whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. Trading has transformed my life. I did not grow up rich. My father was a professor in Canada. I grew up basically lower middle class. But in my family, we didn't talk about money. Money was not something that was good. Art was good. Education was good. And I'm not saying those are bad things at all. But on the other hand, I was taught that money was something over there. And so, to me, the ability to transform my life, to be able to take care of my mother, whose picture I showed you, to be able to live the 5-star life that I do is something that I want to share with you. Do you want to participate in that? Now let me talk about my students though, because that's more important than how it's transformed my life. But let me tell you, there's been several times in my life I showed you how I made a bunch of money and how I had had these amazing track records. But I've had bad times too. I was involved in a company that went bust and I lost all my money. I've been through 2 divorces. Also, pretty difficult on my back pocket. But here's what I knew. I always knew that if I had $500, I could become rich again. Because once you know how to become rich using these techniques, you have a change in your personality. You now have an inner confidence because you now know that with just a small amount of money, you can become rich again. Good or good? Do you see how powerful that is in your brain? Look, I'm standing up here talking to 2,500 people. Everybody says that public speaking is the most terrifying thing in the world. Do I seem pretty calm up here to you? You know why? Because if I'm a complete bust, I'm still rich. And not only that, even if I was poor, I can get rich. Because I know how to get rich, and I want to teach that to you. Yeah, is that good or good? Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Okay, but let me talk about my students. Trading's transformed my life, but I want to just give you a couple of stories of some students. Jordan, in 1 year, after taking my class, he made so much money that he was able to get married 1 year sooner than he planned, and he was able to buy his bride a ring twice the size that he had originally budgeted. Is that good or good? Patrick quit his job from the money he made trading. He moved to Panama with his family from Canada, and now he's retired and he spends 15 minutes a day trading. Is that good or good? Does that sound like a nice lifestyle to you? It's awesome. I have another friend of mine, and he makes $125,000 a year, and he uses only one of the techniques that I teach. Only one. And he makes $125,000 a year. He's been doing that for almost 20 years. 125 grand. He works about 2 or 3 minutes a day. I keep saying to him, why don't you do another technique? Like maybe you could make $250,000 a year. And to his credit, he says, you know what? I might screw it up. But I want you to think for a second of what his life is like. He spends maybe 2 minutes a day trading. He now has 23 hours and 58 minutes a day to do whatever he wants. That's all of ours dream, isn't it? Absolutely. One final story. Gordon. He came to me, this is about, I guess it's only about 3 months ago, and he came to me and he said, I just want to thank you, Courtney, for what you've done in my life. And I said, well, what was that, Gordon? And I knew him. He was a good student. And he said, last year I made 145% using your techniques. Good or good? It's better. Or maybe it's worse. He said, here's why that's important, because I felt pretty good at that point. He said, but I came to you to tell you this because by making that money, I was able to quit my job because my wife was just diagnosed with terminal cancer. And using the money that I earned by taking your class, I've been able to quit my job and spend my time with my wife in her last few months of life. And I looked at that and I said, look, to me, that was like the best gift that I could give him. It broke my heart, but at the same time, it gave him the freedom that he needed and wanted to do to spend with his wife in her last months. And to me, that is like the fact that I was able to participate and help him to do that was something that was really, really gratifying to me. I don't need to teach these classes. I'm rich. I trade every day. I enjoy trading. I love my life. But these stories are why I teach. Does everybody understand that? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And so now what's happened is it's become my mission to bring this financial freedom to you so that you are the stories that I tell at the next time I'm at an MMI. I want your stories to be part of this. And with that, I want to thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.